Well, staying on the subject of regional politics, Professor Walter Russell Mead of Bard College, New York, and distinguished scholar at the Hudson Institute, is one of the most respected voices in foreign policy today. He's on a lightning tour to Israel, and I'm glad to say he joins me now from Tel Aviv to talk geopolitics. Professor Mead, welcome to Israel.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Israel continues to face attempts internationally to isolate it. How strong is Israel's international diplomatic position in the world?
I think people underestimate the strength of Israel's international position. When we look at some of its traditional contacts in Europe, perhaps Israel is losing ground. But if you look in India, you look to Asia, you look to Africa, you actually see Israeli diplomacy engaging pretty successfully and Israeli trade booming as well. So I think Israel continues to make some progress internationally.
Well, over to Iran. In July 2015, President Obama told Thomas Friedman in the New York Times that, quote, Iran will be and should be a regional power. What accounts for this extraordinary shift in American foreign policy?
Well, this has been, I think, President Obama's idea since he took office, that by welcoming Iran back into sort of the comity of nations, President Obama hopes that Iran might moderate. I have to say, so far we haven't seen as much progress as we might like, but who knows? Time will tell.
Well, with 6 months to go until the US presidential elections, might the next administration reverse this policy of American disengagement from the Middle East, or are Israelis waking up to a brave new dawn?
Well, I couldn't possibly predict what a Trump administration would do. He gives a lot of conflicting signals. I think Secretary Clinton, if she's elected, would probably take a somewhat more engaged and forward-leaning stance globally than President Obama has done. So if we have a President Clinton in January, I think we could expect an increase in U.S. engagement in the Middle East.
So how does this trend, alongside the collapse of Middle Eastern states and the Middle East state system as a whole in recent years, how should this influence Israel's assessment of the risks involved in granting Palestinian statehood?
I think that is a very interesting question, and it is a difficult, if we look at the crisis of the Arab state system, what we see is that many of the gains that the Israelis would hope they would get in a successful peace negotiation with the Palestinians would come under fire if the new Palestinian government is unable to provide the kind of stable prosperity and order that a successful state does. Now we already see that the Palestinians on the West Bank and the Palestinians in Gaza are divided. Is there an umbrella authority that could take over? So it's going to be, I think this is in a sense always been the question for Israelis looking at these negotiations. Who is the Palestinian partner? And is the Palestinian partner capable of building a state that can live up to the obligations that would be in a treaty of peace?
Well, more broadly, with the interests of the Sunni powers and Israel seemingly converging against the Iranian axis, what hope is there for a normalization of ties with the Arab world, or is the Palestinian issue going to remain a thorn in the side of diplomatic attempts?
Well, the Palestinian issue will be a thorn. The Palestinian issue continues to have a strong emotional and political resonance in the Arab world. But I think we are seeing already elements of increasing pragmatic cooperation between some of the Sunni Arab powers and Israel. It wouldn't be the first time. I believe in the 1960s there was a certain amount of cooperation between Israelis and some of the Gulf countries in the war in Yemen. So this is not entirely new, but I do think we are seeing a greater recognition among many Sunni states that Israel is not only here to stay in the region, but Israel can, from a certain point of view, be seen by Sunnis to be playing a constructive role in the regional balance of power.
Thank you very much for your time, Professor Mead, and have a very safe trip home. Thank you for joining us.